morning, everybody, and welcome to today's Mike Ames Show, where we're going to look at 3 tips that you can do to make sales calls more successful and less stressful. So if you're somebody who is either has to make sales calls in your job and currently find it a little bit uncomfortable, or it's an area that you know you're going to have to move into and develop into, then this is definitely the show for you. So, Mike, I've noticed that you were actually wearing a very similar Bond villain outfit than you were on that picture.
I think you find this is a 70s Bond villain, Kirsty. Yes, I was, because I'd played golf that day and I played golf this morning. So there you go. It's
You have a
done.
specific goal
We
for
lead the lives that we make for ourselves, ladies and gentlemen. So, yes, that's me.
Fantastic. Now, Big Mike, I'm gonna, comment the elephant in the room. Today is Tuesday, is it not? We are creating the Mike Ames Show on a Tuesday. Why is this? Why is this, Michael?
I had an important meeting crop up, which I couldn't cancel.
Is that meeting outside, Michael?
Could be outside, yeah.
Is it involving long sticks and tiny balls?
Could be that, yeah. It's a client, so it's absolutely fine, right? So don't start on me. It's a client. Anyway, let's get on with the show. Come on.
Yeah, let's get on with it. Okay, fantastic. So, like I said, Big Mike, today we're going to talk about sales calls and how we can make them more comfortable and more efficient and more successful. But to begin with, do you actually think people already use the phone a lot when it comes to sales?
I don't think they use it enough. I think because we have so many other ways to communicate now, we have emails and WhatsApp and texts and all sorts of things and social media. So we don't have to communicate with the telephone. I was trained on the telephone because that was our primary interaction or communication channel. That's what we did. You ring people up and you speak to them. But nowadays, I think partly because there are so many other choices for sure, but also because people have got out of the habit of using the telephone, I think.
Yeah.
People of your generation, for example, don't, do they?
Yeah, no, not really. And I know we're going to talk about that in a second. But before we sort of go into why people don't, I sort of want to focus on why they should. Like, why is it that you think the phone is such a great option for sales calls? What does it bring that a text or an email doesn't?
That's a fair point. Hey, do you know what? Before that, can I just ask a question? Would you mind?
may.
I know not scheduled, but could you just put me a 1 to 10 in the comments if you're 1, not really very confident or comfortable on the telephone, and 10 being that is my absolute chosen channel of interaction and communication? Just put it into the comments so that we can see, if you don't mind. If you want to put a reason, that's absolutely fine. Be great. Anyway, so when you send a text or an email or something, well, what you don't have to worry about is coordination of time. So I can send that if you're busy, you'll read it when you're not busy, perhaps. Whereas with a telephone, I've got to have some free time, which happens to coincide when you've got some free time if I'm ringing you up. So I get that that's a problem. The upside to this, though, is that in a telephone conversation, you can get a week's worth of emails done. Because, an email is like, I send you this, you send me that, I send you this. I can just get it all done in a phone call. I'd like to talk about this. Well, okay, it's this, that, and the other. And, well, okay, could we do this? Yeah, we could do that. We could do this instead. So there's an exchange which is very quick. Added to that, I don't know whether you've done the same, Kirsty. I know you have. Put something in an email that sent it, and then when you read it later, you thought, oh, maybe that could have been misconstrued a little bit.
It's literally my greatest fear. That's why I actually am one of the freakish millennials who prefers a phone call for that exact reason, because my tone makes it very clear my meaning. Whereas
and if you
emails,
get it wrong,
you can read tone.
Yeah, well, you can. But if you get it wrong as well on the phone, you can pick up that you've said something wrong, and you can fix it there and then. Right. And that's really important. You've got this two-way. It's kind of body language, but only body language, verbal body language. Weirdly, you can detect what people are thinking by the tone of their speech and how they're communicating with you. And that is such important data, but you don't get on electronic communication mechanisms. The other thing is, I think, so you've got things happen quicker. There's an immediacy to it. You can just get it done, which I really like. And I suppose I'll bring them all up, and you get this extra level of information. So to me, I really want to get a result now. I don't want to send an email that might get responded to tomorrow, or forgotten, or missed, or end in the junk mail, or, oh, I meant to reply to you and I'm sorry, I've got to get it. No, I want to know right now. And so therefore the telephone has significant benefits,
Yeah.
in my humble opinion.
Yeah, because I think in an email, people are less likely to be like, "Oh yeah, this Saturday I went for a walk and watched my favorite football team, Wolverhampton Wanderers." Just if anybody's wondering out there. But on a phone call, that kind of stuff is much easier to come out. So it's easier to get that sort of information that you need for relationship building on a phone call. I don't think you get it in an
Banter.
email
You're
or text.
referring to banter.
Witty banter,
Yes.
as
And
everybody
yes,
knows
you
we are
can.
pros at.
Witty banter is a crucial part of relationship building, to show you're a human being. Bloody hard in an email and a WhatsApp, that is. Easy on the
Yeah.
telephone, isn't it?
100%, 100%. Now we have had some responses to your question, Mike, and we've got a pro. Gavin is
Hey.
hitting an 11 out of
Why
10.
isn't Gavin on the show? Why isn't he on the show telling us what to do?
Fantastic. And then we've got another fairly high one at 7. And I would actually question is, whilst you guys are that high, and anybody who didn't answer it, if you have a team, how much do you think your team on a scale of 1 to 10 is
Oh,
comfortable?
well, that's
Because
the thing, isn't it?
that's, I think, important because, again, Mike, you struggle with this because you're naturally, it's your favorite thing to do is you like cold calls as like a stress relief, like a weirdo. But I feel like a lot of people, and because you guys are so unconsciously competent at it, it's just, well, you just pick up the phone and make the call. For those people who are more uncomfortable, and we are going to talk about why that is in a second, it's perhaps harder to explain. You just pick up the call, and it's something we work really hard on you. So maybe if your team might be lower numbers, then maybe this is going to
You can
be
see it.
something.
You can see that thing where you said, "Have you spoken to so and so?" Yeah. I emailed him. No. Did you speak to him? Yes, I emailed him. Did you pick the telephone up and talk to him? Oh, no. I emailed him.
That's madness.
It's
Madness.
like there's a disconnect, isn't there, really? And you see that quite a lot, particularly, if I dare say, with people who are less mature, like myself. And I'm not referring to Gavin and to Paul either, although obviously they're a little bit more mature, not as mature as me, but
Very few people
nonetheless.
are.
But I think it is a problem because, as you said, it's a habit that you've not got into because you had other courses of
Yeah.
communication, which meant that you didn't have to coordinate to be available at the same time to do something. You could just send it, and then when they're ready, they'll send back again. So it's a
Yeah.
habit.
As a millennial, I got my phone. I'm a mid-range millennial, so I got my first phone. I think I was 12. So people were getting it mid-teens to some kids kind of having them at kind of 8 or 9. So phoning someone was expensive, whereas a text, when you took out all the vowels, was like 12p. So you got used to texting people. That was our primary mode of
I think,
communication when we
yeah,
were apart.
it's a habit.
So it's
But
out of
there's
it.
something deeper than that, though, Kirsty. I think there
There
is
is.
also an astonishing fear of failure in some people. So it's like if I send an email and you ignore it, well, you might not have read it, but it's not a failure of my part. You're not rejecting me.
Mm.
You might reply back, but I can quickly delete it if I don't want to be told to your face. Clear off. Never ring me again, because if you do, I'm going to set the dogs on you. Right? People have said that to me in so many words. So, and that was my mother, though. That was the sad part,
She
really.
doesn't like you.
Nan said that, but the point is that that exists, right? And the best way to get around it, I'm going to talk ways to get around it in a minute, is just do more calls. That's not a tip, by the way. It's not one of my tips, just so as you know. But you actually, over a while, you just get used to it, and then you just pick up the phone when you need to. But I think we're going to talk about that in a second, aren't we? But
we are indeed. I have got Gavin made a good point here as well, which is that when he had a team, he would have said, yeah, that they were kind of averaging the mid-range of confidence, which is pretty much what we would expect to see. And also, apparently, Gavin was 28 when he got his first mobile. So you obviously waited till they were perfect. All right, Mike. So now I really sort of want to get into these tips because, like I said, there will be people watching this who are uncomfortable doing sales calls themselves or less confident. And there will also be people who have teams that are less confident. So can we sort of go into these 3 tips?
no, we can't.
Now?
I have to put something around that first. I have to just let me bring this up. Let me just bring this up, right? Mindset is everything. If you don't believe that you're going to be useful or of value from the get-go, then you won't be. And they'll pick that up as well. If you're timid and it's, I'm sorry to disturb you. Oh, no. And I'm not talking about being arrogant or pushy or any of those things, but you have to believe that you're going to add value in that call. And if you don't, then the chances are you'll be on the wrong foot from the get-go. Right now, we're going to talk about that in a second as well, because there are things that you can do to make that happen. But if you don't believe in your product or service,
Mm.
then you have to find something, a piece of content or something that you think would be of interest to the person you're talking to, because you can lead in on that. And that's the thing you lead in on before you get to the thing that you want to talk about, which is, do you want to buy something from me, or whatever the call is.
Mm.
And so, but I see that all the time. And when I trained a lot of people in calls, you could just see that they didn't believe that they were going to add value. They were
Mm.
almost an imposition, ringing people up. No, I'm going to change your world, right? That thing you've got that doesn't work, that the problem that you've got that stresses you out, talk to me. I'm going to make that go away. I mean,
Mm.
how valuable is that? Now, you don't have to say any of that, because that's a bit salesy, but you have to believe it. So
Yeah.
that's not one of the tips per se,
Yeah.
but it is massively important, and it's the thing to work on more than anything else.
Yeah.
Is
And I
that?
suppose if you're a business owner, even if you're a solopreneur at this point and you're looking to grow your team, that's something you're going to have to go through them. Make sure that they've got things that they can add value to people on calls. Make sure they
Yeah,
fully understand the product so they do believe in it and they have that mission and they,
yeah,
are behind it 100%.
yeah.
Okay,
And then
perfect.
they
Now,
know the effect that they have, right? So they know these are the problems. When I do this thing, or my company does this thing, those go away.
yeah.
This is the benefit you get. If you really believe that more than anything else, I promise that will come through on the call.
Okay, perfect. Now, before we go into these, I just want to clarify on the tips. We are not just talking cold calls here, are we?
You're
This
not talking
isn't.
cold calls at all.
No.
No. I mean, if you want to do cold calls, you can, but I think it's so, 1990s, I wouldn't do it myself. But no, these are just calls to people that you don't feel comfortable with, really.
Right. So
So if
you're
you
not
are
talking your
ringing your
mum or your
mother,
best friend.
not your best friend or your mother, or whatever, but these are people that you just feels when you're approaching the call, it feels a bit awkward, really.
Okay. All right. Fantastic. So, can we start with number one then,
You
please?
can. It's incredibly simple. You've got some calls to do, right? You've got them in front of you on your pad. You've got 3 or 4 people you've got to ring, and you've got to get something from them. You're either going to try and get a bit of business or move the process a bit closer to that, right? But it just feels a bit weird. So you've got that procrastination. I'll just go make a coffee,
Clean my
just do
house.
my emails, whatever, right? Well, let me tell you what you should do. None of those things. Phone a friend. Phone a warm client, somebody who's going to be nice to you, and have a little chat,
Mm.
because it's like a warm-up exercise, honestly. And when you see people do this, we used to train people to ring someone say, how you doing? How's things? A client, I just thought I'd catch up. It's been ages. What's up? What's going on? 5 minutes is all it is. 5-10 minutes. Just have a
Just
little chat.
bolster your
Okay, well,
confidence.
great. We must see each other for a coffee soon. I'm going to go. Click. You're in it now. Don't wait. Pick up the phone and make the next call. I promise it works. Ring a friend first. Get warmed up, and then don't go and make a coffee, right? Or do your emails straight in.
So that when you're saying call a friend, a client, and in that client call, you're not asking for business. You're
No,
literally just saying, I'm catching
no,
up with you. I'm asking how you are. I may be offering you something of value, but that's it.
no,
And it's
not even
someone you
that
feel really
necessarily. Just
comfortable
how
with.
the devil are you? How are things? Or I was driving along this morning. I thought of that. I don't know why you popped into my head. I did it once. I said to someone, I said I was in the shower and I thought of you this morning,
Please tell me it was a
which,
man that you said that to.
which was true. Not in that weird way. I wasn't rubbing myself down with Mr. Matey or anything, but was that one step too far?
It's just gone to a very dark place. Can we
Can you
move
edit
on?
that out? Yeah,
Yeah.
okay, good. Anyway, no, but what I'm saying is I just thought of you, or just that thing or whatever. Just have a nice warm call, right? So that's done.
Okay. So we
As long as
we
that
are
will work.
warmed up. We've done the equivalent of our vocal exercises with a warm client.
Yeah.
What do we do then?
And by the way, I still do that. I still
Yes,
do
I know you
that
do.
myself now. Right? Have an opening sequence. So mine is hi Kirsty, it's Mike Ames here. Have you got a moment or two to speak? Because you might say, no, I'm really busy. Well, I'm not going to force myself on you. I'm
Yeah,
going to
and
say,
also
well, okay,
if you're
okay.
going to do a sales call, that someone's going to say no to you, aren't
It's
they? If
never
they're
going to
busy,
work,
they're
is
going to be
it?
like, no,
No.
go away.
Yeah, clear off, right? Just waiting for you to get rid of you so I can get on with what I was doing. So if they're busy, I say, well, okay, no problems. When's a better time to get you? Oh, ring me on Friday. What sort of time? 10 o'clock. I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll pop a little diary appointment in, copy you in. Is that okay? Now, sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. But I will do that, especially if I've not got them a couple of times. I'll just put a diary in. It increases the chances that they'll take that call at that time.
Mm.
If they say, oh, I'm a bit busy, go on, I've got a couple of minutes, right? That means you've got to hit them something quite powerful in the beginning of the call. No small talk, straight in. If they say, yeah, good to speak, how are you, Mike? I'll always say to the how are you, Mike, which is what they normally say, oh, if I was any better, I'd be twins, right? What do you mean by that? Well, this thing happened, and then I'm going on my holidays at the weekend, and it leads into a little bit of banter, a little bit of small talk. I only do it if they've got the time, obviously, but it does make a difference because it softens the call. You're just talking to people about them, or you say, I'm okay, never better, actually. How are you? And shut up and wait for them to speak, and then have a little discussion around what it is that they want to talk about. Now, again, on a telephone, you can tell this. If they're not into that, it'll come across in their voice. Stop immediately and press on to the next thing.
Yeah.
Right?
So essentially, with this standard call opening, you're figuring. So you've got the thing. So first of all, you don't have to worry about what to say. You know what you're saying. And then secondly, you're allowing the person at the other end of the phone to sort of dictate the way the rest of the call's going. If they're very much like, no, busy, you're going to go, fine, I'll do it another time, and you try and arrange it. If they're like, nah, depending on what you're going to say to me, I've got a little bit of time, you can kind of skip over some of that small talk chat. Whereas if they're like, nah, come to me, chat with me, then you can spend some time doing some relationship building. So this standard call opening sequence basically gives you, it's like almost a diagnostic for how the rest of the call is going to go.
I think so, but it's just a little framework. It's, have you got the time? Yes or no? Blah, blah, blah. How are you? Oh, my goodness, if I was any better, or this has just happened or whatever. How are you? Little exchange of stuff. And then the switch phrase is, oh, great. Anyway, the reason for the call, right? And then you're in. You've switched from wherever you were poncing around talking about golf or Bond villains or holidays, whatever it is that you were covering. Okay, I know you're busy. The reason for the call is, now, if you have got the relationship to the stage where it's time to ask for the business, which I'm going to talk about in a minute, then that's great. You can press on to that. However, if you're not quite at that stage yet, then you might just add some value. As we said earlier, in the mindset, you're going to add value in this call one way or the other. So it could just be, that thing you said to me, I've just come across this great post, this great video, this great article or something. Do you want me to send you a link? Right? Could just be as simple as that. Okay. Or it could be that you're asking for some help. People like that. Honestly, it's a weird way. I know you're saying that I'm going to add value to them, but asking someone for help
makes them feel like an expert, makes them feel knowledgeable, makes them feel valued.
Like it. It's easy. Like it. So I've got a couple of questions, or I've just written something. If I sent it to you, would you read it for me and tell me what you think? Very rarely do I ask people that and get turned down. I mean, in fact, I never get turned down. That some people just don't do it, which is fair enough. But right. But so you're having a conversation now. Once you've done that, right, you've got that standard open sequence. You've flipped it then to where you need to be. You need then to get what you want. And that becomes a little difficult. Now, I know it said 3 tips, but this is 1 tip.
Pushing my rules. 2. It's an A and a B is what you've done.
A and B. Well, I've just got 3 and 3A. So I'm going to go with 3, right? So if you haven't got to the stage where you've told them what you do in detail, kind of a pitch really, then you can split that up into 2. So what you do is you don't say, can I tell you what I do? What you do is you say, here's the thing. We've been talking for a wee while now. I don't think I've ever really explained to you kind of exactly what we do and the circumstances when people use us. Would you like me to do that at some point? And if so, when would be a good time? Okay, so it's splitting it up. It's not saying you're going to do it now. So it gives them the opportunity to say, well, I'm a bit busy now. And you say, well, okay, it's no problems. I mean, would you like to know what I do? And if they say no, quite frankly, you're wasting your time there. Yeah. It's not a rejection of you. It's just their circumstances don't match your circumstances. And that's just fine. So that's somebody else you don't need to worry about moving forward. You can
focus on people who will give you things.
Yeah, you can, right? Mostly people don't do that. If you've got that relation to that stage, yeah, go on then. I'd like to know. Well, okay, when would be a good time? I can do it now if you want. So be prepared. They might say yes.
Mhm.
Or you can say, do you want to schedule half an hour? I'll put a Zoom in the diary. And if they say yes, do it there and then. Don't send through some emails. Get your diary up and do it there and then. You'll save yourself about 3 months worth of blooming work a year. Not even joking. So if they go for it, say, right, okay, let's schedule this in then. When's a good time for you?
Yeah.
Schedule it in, set the Zoom call up, and you're done.
Mhm.
All right. But you can use that in all this kind of double ask in all sorts of circumstances. If you want to meet someone for the first time, you never met them, you can say, do you know what? One of these days we should get together for a coffee. Would you be up for that? Right? Yeah, it'd be great. Yeah, tell it. Okay, well, next time I'm in town, I'll give you a ring, and if you're available, we'll set something up. So you're not asking them to do the thing, you're asking them for permission to ask to do the thing. And it's easier, it's an easier thing to ask, and it's softer and it's less pushy, and you get better results from it.
Yeah. I do a similar thing with testimonials.
You do, yeah. What do you say now?
I would say, if when I first start working with someone, are you okay if once we've finished, if I come to ask you for a testimonial? And they will always say yes. And then you say, oh, you said I could get a testimonial from you. Can we book it in? But you do it like 4 months later.
Yeah, it's
It
a double
works.
ask. It's very
Double ask.
popular in relationship sales. Do use it a lot, but it's really good for pitching.
Mhm.
Right, so it's something, it softens it for you, it makes it easier for you, because you're not thinking, I've got a pitch now, just going to ask if I can do that. And say, yeah, okay, well, set a Zoom up for that.
Okay.
Okay.
So now what happens if you have done that? So you've either done it previously and they already know, or you've just done it in that call and you've finished, so they now know what you do. You finished explaining to them. That's still not technically asking for business.
No. So, okay, so unless somebody has said, I've got a piece of work I'd like you to do, could you tell
It's so lovely when
me
that happens.
how you would do it? I like it when they do that, to be fair. But unless you can do that, what you're doing is what's called a pigeonhole pitch. So you're giving them the key messages we talked about 2 or 3 shows ago. If you've not checked it out, check that out.
Yes, I
But
need
you're
to check
giving
that.
those key messages in a way that they can kind of get you. Right, I get you. I know you deal with. I know when you're needed. I know what you do. I know the outcome of that. I know your USPs, and I kind of believe that you're good at what you do. Right. So those are the key messages. So if you've already done that and they've got it, but you've still not got anywhere, then what you have to do is actually ask for the business. Now, the easiest way to do that, and I was trained on this a long time ago, and it still works, I still use it today, is this.
Interesting.
Okay, so you would say to someone, I've been talking to someone for ages, they've done the pigeonhole pitch, they know exactly what I do, I've added some value, and I'm getting a bit fed up. Not fed up, I'm just thinking, well, okay, where are we with this? Where are we going?
Mhm.
I don't want to be a nuisance, really. I just don't want to be a pest.
You're well in the black, but you
Yeah.
also think,
Oh, well in
you
the
know,
black in the relationship bank account. I've added loads of value. I don't want people to think that I'm a bloody nuisance,
mhm.
right? And I'm giving them the chance now to get rid of me. That's what's happening here. So I would say, look, tell you what, can I ask a question? Would you mind? The answer is yes. I mean, no one ever says no. No, you can't ask me a question, because if they do say no, not this ever happened to me, that's end of story, right?
Probably not a great relationship to
It's
begin with,
done.
really, is it?
You're over. You get out of there, right? It's not. They're not going to say that. So you say, okay, right. What I don't want to do is be a pest. I don't want to be a nuisance. I don't want to. You're a polite person, so you know you're not going to tell me to sling me up or whatever. But can I ask a question? On a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being I would never use that thing that you provide, to 10, actually I think it's time we started talking now
Mhm.
about you helping us. Where would you be on that scale? And then shut up. And they will give you a number. If that number is between 1 and 5, never going to happen. You might think it will, but it won't. If that is a 10, then okay, when's a good time for us to talk about this? Is it good for me to come and see you? Can we say whatever? Who else needs to be involved? However you close your deals, right? It's time to close. If it's 8 and 9, then the next stage is, well, okay, give me some timetables on this, because obviously you're getting close to it. Give me a timetable. What are we doing from here on in? Where do we go from here? You drive it. You're the client. You tell me what you want to do. If it's 6 and 7, slightly different approach. So, okay, we're not there yet. What do I need to provide for you? What do I need to give to you, which will help you move that to an 8 or a 9 or a 10? And again, shut up and wait. Because in
Mm.
many cases, they'll say, well, it's not the right time yet. So is it okay if I just keep in touch? Or when do you think the time is going to be? These are all very valid questions. You can ask them. But what you're doing is bringing this vague kind of relationship thing that you have, where they know what you do and you know what the needs that they have, and bringing that into the, well, are you going to work or not? What are we doing here?
Mm.
And I know it sounds a little harsh, but if you practice it, if you do it in the right way, it really isn't. It's the easiest thing in the world to do. And the answers, because it's a number, the answers that come through will tell you exactly where you are now and what you need to do next. It's
Yeah.
brilliant.
I think the whole point of this, all of this, and the thing that you have to remember during sales things, because sometimes, like you've mentioned, it can feel like rejection. Sales is an exclusive activity, isn't it? It's getting rid of people
Mm,
who aren't
mm.
aren't going to be of value to you because it'll bring you money. That's not what it's about. But people who don't want you in
Don't
their
need
life.
you, yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
one way or
why
another.
why would you pursue someone that will never need you? Because they've already got suppliers that do what you do and they're happy with them, or they don't actually want the variety of thing that you sell. It doesn't suit them. It's madness to do that. So they need to be moved out of the pipeline as quick as you can possibly get them out. And in many cases, giving them the opportunity to basically say, sling your hook, it's a one, is a nice way of rejecting you. That's not really a rejection, really. It's an
Mm.
admission that you don't have a crossover. That's fine.
Yeah, perfect. Okay. All right. Now, in a minute, Mike, I'm going to come to you and get the one tip that people need to give. But I'm going to just give a little brief run up and then go through who we got next week. So, um, phone calls are faster, they give you more information, and they're immediate. You don't have to wait around for somebody else to give you. And you sort of can get over that fear of failure or rejection by recognizing it's not about you, they're not rejecting you, it's something else. So when you're going to create these phone calls, first get in the mindset, understand that you are going to add value, these people are going to want your call because you're giving something to them. Then if you find yourself procrastinating it, do a warm-up call, ring a nice client, ring somebody who's nice, get that sort of oomph, of energy into you. Secondly, prepare how you're gonna your first opening sentence.
That's the
Prepare it.
big one. That is the big one for you. That will alleviate the fear of failure
Mhm.
because you know you're not going to fail at the beginning of the call.
Yeah.
You know
Yeah.
you won't. And
And
once you
you're
don't
gonna
fail at the beginning, you won't fail the rest of the call either. You'll be
and you're
fine.
gonna understand where they are in their mood to understand how the rest of the call goes. So it gives you
Yes.
data. Then go through and kind of ask the question, I'd like to explain what I do. Is now a good time if they don't already know? And they'll either say yes, in which case do it, or they'll say no, and you then schedule that call.
Pigeonhole pitch, key messages. Yes.
Yeah. And then finally, but that again is still isn't asking for business. It's technically not a sales call yet. If you're going to get to that ask and you just can't seem to get it, then use the scale of 1 to 10. Say, you know what I do on a scale of 1 to 10. How interested are you
Yeah.
potentially in something like that? And they'll give you a number 1 to 5, dead duck. Sort of 8 to 10, go for it. Ask them what the next step is, and 6 and 7, ask them what would you need from me to get to an 8, 9, 10. All valid, all good?
All
Okay,
peachy.
perfect. So just quickly before we come to your 3 tips, next week we are doing an open chat on working from home. We're getting 2 perspectives on working from home.
Very different perspectives. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
And we're going to talk through that. So it's going to be an interesting chat because we're getting one as a business owner and one as an employee, and I think it's going to be interesting to see how different people look at it. But now, Michael, we are going to round off with your top tip. So people want to get into sales calls, they want their team to get into sales calls. What is the top tip that they should do?
Well, it's no surprises really. It's that one. Get your mentality sorted out. There's no point learning the mechanics of making great sales calls if deep down you don't think you're worthy,
Mm,
because
it's not going
that
to
will
go well.
come through. Yeah, you've got. I'm going to shake your world. I'm not saying say that because that's a bit
Say it in
smarmy. I
here,
don't even say that yet.
inner voice.
In your head, I'm going to shake your world. You know that thing that's really messing you up? I'm going to take that away.
Yeah.
And the process of me taking it away, it's going to be great fun. You're going to love it.
Yeah. And if you aren't in that space, either figure out more, like do some diagnostics about what your benefits are, what your USPs are, or talk to your senior member, your boss or your team leader and ask them, you know, what are they doing that's great for me?
Yeah, they've got to understand the problems. They've got to be confident that you provide a great solution, and it marries up. And if you can't do that on a call, give them some content or something, add some value that way. But really, you need to get that mentality sorted out.
Perfect. Okay. So I think we're about there for
Okay.
this week's show, which is on a Tuesday. Now, the way that we're going to do this is we are going to replay this on Thursday. So you're either watching the replay with me chatting live along with you, or you might be watching on our YouTube channel, which is absolutely fine. And then next week, we'll be back to our normal Thursday
We will.
playtime.
Yeah, we will. Yeah, we will.
Yes. So thank you
Okay.
very much for everybody watching. Thank you to you, Michael, for being magnificent as always, even if you are a Bond villain.
No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die. Yeah,
You're the
lovely.
cat.
Okay, the cat, yeah. Okay, and we'll see you all next week. Take care.